Good morning. It's Monday the 19th of January 2026. This is a special interest video for hobbyists. If you don't have an interest, please switch off because there's no point wasting time if you're not interested. Alternators for charging. The car alternator, usually 12 volts. This is an old one here that's on the way to the dub. But just before I do, I'll just make a video on it. This is the alternator. They replaced the old dynamo, which had a commutator that did the converting of the current from alternating to direct current. You can't really produce direct current in a mechanical device. It has to be alternating current. Now, these have an internal rotor, which I will post a video underneath that I made years ago showing how they work. But these have an internal rotor and it's wound. It has a winding. And it's like that. The poles are like that and the winding is like this. And there's a magnetic field in the surrounding. And there's a current goes into the central winding of the rotor, and that current determines the output. That current and the speed of the rotor determines the output. Now, if you look carefully there, you'll see there are two slip rings. See them here, two slip rings. I don't know if can you see them, but there are two slip rings in there, and they generally wear a bit. And sometimes when they give trouble, all that's wrong with them is they need new brushes. There's two brushes. Now, they're not like a commutator. They're just smooth slip rings, to call them. So, in most of these, you can actually wire the brushes direct to an outside source. But the way these work is when they're intact in the car or tractor, there's a regulator here, and it measures 1/2 of the voltage of the dynamo. Sorry, the cat is here, very active. This measures half the voltage of the system. It doesn't just measure the voltage inside in the alternator or the battery alone. It measures the two, the relationship between the two when you have the tractor or the car running. Ideally, that the proper volt is 13 volts, which is a little bit above the 12 volt for the appliances in the car. That's the best good lively performance for starting and everything. But the battery can go down in voltage to 10.5. They're designed to hold the voltage pretty good. So it can go down to 10.5. So they need to be constantly charged. And it's one of the great things about the internal combustion engine car. You have a built-in electricity supply to do everything you could possibly want. Now, there are two bearings each side, and they often seize up. And there's usually, I do put a V pulley here. And in the video I'll post beside it, you'll see it working. So the regulator measures half the system power, voltage. And when it has the system voltage measured, it feeds the information into a triac or a semiconductor with three. It has three legs in it, as it were. And two of these, the flow here is controlled. If you have a third leg. If this leg has no power, nothing flows. If you build up a voltage in this, current will flow here. So they're an absolutely marvelous bit of equipment. They're a semiconductor. A triac is what I normally call them. Anyway, the name just escaped me. I'm sure you'll think of it. It doesn't matter anyway. There's three legs. So that's how they control the voltage. If the voltage, that's when you would say you happen to leave the headlights on a dark night and the battery off. When you start the car, you'll see the lights brightening up because the regulator is telling the triacs that to put more in here. And it puts more in here, and that gives a higher voltage in the system, and it charges the battery. The potential from the alternator could be maybe higher, maybe 15 volts, and when that's fed into 10.5 volts, it quickly brings the system up to 13 volts. Are you with me? Or if you're driving along the road and you've lights and wipers and heater on and all of that stuff, this is doing a lot of work. Actually, these can produce a horsepower. Sometimes they reckon they take a horsepower out of the engine. You wouldn't really notice it. Now, these can be used to charge batteries. Now, one of the things about them is there's a starter then around in a ring around here, a starter. And it's three-phase. There are three separate windings set at 120 degrees to each other. And that gives three-phase power, which at high revs is way above any phase that's in, or any hertz that's in the mains electricity. The mains electricity is 50 hertz. These could be 300 hertz at high speed. So these are very high hertz, and because of that, they're not suitable for much of the demonstrations about how alternating current works. They're too fast. They're too fast. Some people reduce the hertz by altering the internal rotor, cutting some of the lugs off it. Generally, there's 6 lugs in the internal rotor, or maybe 8. It's an even number. So now, the power comes off the starter windings, and it's rectified by 6 diodes. You'll see them in it. They're attached to an aluminium plate. 6 diodes. They're about the width of that pen, and they're only about that length. And there's a little wire out of them. So they're earthed to the body of the alternator. That's one source of electricity in, and then there's a stem coming out, and that's the other source. And those can change the three-phase power from alternating current to direct current, and that gives you quite a smooth direct current out. Quite good. The old dynamos gave very good quality, smooth 12-volt power. These give nearly as good, not a problem. Now, they also fit a capacitor in there, which carries some of the peaks over to the troughs and smooths it out a bit more. Okay. Now you can actually tap this so that it'll give three-phase power. And in the video I link underneath, that's exactly what is done. It'll give three-phase power, and it'll drive a three-phase reciprocal motor, as I show in the video, and indeed it will act as a motor. If you put 2 of these together and feed the three-phase out of that into the three-phase of another one, bypassing all the works that's in it, all the regulators, you will get, and the diodes, you will get the motoring. I have often made these motor. They go around with three-phase power. But there's no advantage in that. So I don't really see any advantage in having a three-phase one of these souped up with the bypassing the regulator, but I do see a good advantage into having a standard one souped up to give varying amounts of direct current. If you have this on a board, the simplest thing is bolt it on a board and put a 1/2 horsepower motor driving it. Now, I wouldn't have the belt too tight. The problem with it is that the 1/2 horsepower is barely enough. So in many ways, I'd get a light alternator. Generally speaking, the Lucas ones are the easiest. So if you're going looking for one in the scrapyard, try and get a Lucas one. This one here, you see this comes out. You can take it out, put your wee bit of solder on the 2 wires, 2 light wires, bring them out, a blue and a brown, bring them out, put this back in again, and you have it direct wired. Now, there's diodes that will not allow the current to flow in reverse. So I've never done any harm to anything by doing this, by hot wiring it, as it were. Are you with me now? No. So then the 1/2 horsepower motor is weak enough, it's feeble enough. So for that reason, the weaker these are, the better. If you go putting a 1 horsepower motor in it, you have a problem, and that is this is very heavy. The whole thing is too heavy to carry. You want a light system. It'll take longer to charge, but that's easier to carry around. But if you're into it and put it in a wheelbarrow, you can have a 1 horsepower single phase. Usually you'd have, these will all be single phase in normal places, single phase induction motor. You get them at own marts and variety marts and scrap places and that. The ones in washing machines are a bit light, tell you the truth. I don't know what I use them. I normally just buy a 1/2 horsepower motor. I have several of them. You'll pick them up here and there. They're in everything. Now, and the right ones is the one with the capacitor. They run at a set speed. Now, if you put a big amount of power into the rotor of this, say you put 6 volts in, you will put too big a pull on the half horsepower motor. It won't be fit to charge a big battery. So what you have to do is you have to give it its time. You only put a very light input in here, maybe through a flash lamp battery. And you can use a resistance such as a bulb, or indeed the internal lead of a pencil, or a long winding of copper wire, or a long piece of wire. It'll lose energy in the winding, but you'll have a lower voltage. Now, essential to this is a voltmeter across the terminals going to the battery. And also it's very important to have the positive and negative ones marked red and blue. So when you put a voltmeter on it, it'll tell you the voltage. Now, I get away without it, and voltmeters are delicate. The other thing is very, very useful and gone very expensive is an amp meter, and I might try to make one of these, but we'll not do it today. So the amp meter will tell you if it's charging. So what you do is you set up your kit, you have it running, you put your whatever battery you have on it, and you start feeding in the power. And as you start feeding in the power, you'll find the motor slowing down. And as it slows down, if you have an amp meter, you'll see it's starting to charge. They can't go reverse. There's a cutout on these in diodes inside. You don't need a cutout. It'll only send the current the one way. If you hear that motor slowing down, you know it's charging. And be very careful about sparking a wire, but it's a very good test just to spark a wire on the battery. But if there's a high gas around the battery, it can explode. It can happen and has happened and damage your eyesight. So if you're doing that, keep well away from it. But anyway, I don't recommend it. But the amp meter, and they're about €30 to buy. And they're only basics and they'll break. You might get them off old machinery, old scrapyards might have them. Anywhere you see an amp meter, always collect it if you can. Now, the thing is, you can make an amp meter, we'll look about that. Now, what about all these modern battery-powered drills and angle grinders and things? Well, the problem with those is you buy in Woodies or wherever, or your shop, you buy your drill, it comes in a box with charger and all, happy days. And you'll get a good lot of work out of it. But eventually the charger will break. They're delicate, made in China. And it won't charge the battery. And you're not competent to fix it. It could be some component inside. But you'll find they could be €70 to buy a new one. That's where they catch you. The drill may be cheap, but if you want to buy a part for it, a battery or the charger, it's not cheap at all. You could pay more for the battery charger than you would pay for the whole thing new. That's how they make the money. That's why the landfill sites of Ireland are full with machine tools, with washing machines, with everything. Everything's now built to last and dump out. It's a great pity, but that's the way it is. Now, when you have this system running with your charger, with your battery for your drill, electric drill, or your angle grinder, or a sander, or whatever it is, you can technically feed the power into both terminals. Get to know, mark the negative and the positive one. And I'm sure most of you will be able to determine which is which. There'll be a little resistance spark if you do it wrong, so don't just tip it to it. When you tip the alternator to the battery, it might spark a little. You'll find the motor slowing up. That's doing it right. If you do it in reverse, it should spark violently. So it should not be violent sparks. Violent sparks between two electricals, direct current systems, usually mean you have the positive on the negative and the negative on the positive. That'll create a mess. So the minute you see that, you shouldn't be that. Now, you can have, we'll say, a pencil or some resistance between a flash lamp battery. A 6-volt flash lamp battery would be good. I do usually use two 1.5 volt, 3 volt flash lamp batteries and put them together in some kind of a tube and have the power out of them. And then you'll find out what is the optimum to give you the right charge. You want, most of these tools are 18 volt. Most of them are 18 volts. So if they're 18 volts, And the other thing too is when you're putting the connectors to the battery, put one wire very weak so that it'll not burn too much. Have only one strand until you find out what's what. When you put them to it, it should charge the battery. Now I say should. I have charged car batteries with this, but I've never charged those type of batteries. But I see no reason why, if you have the potential of this alternator here, if you have this potential at 20 volts, why it shouldn't charge a discharge battery, which could be down to 16 volts and bring it up to 18 volt, maybe 19 volts. Now it'll take a while, and give it its time. A light input of power will do. And if it drops too low, the current the current can't leave the battery. Do you know what I mean? It's safe enough. So that's a thing. I have done it with tractor batteries and everything else. Now, if you try to charge a big tractor battery with this setup, the pull on the motor is a lot. For a half horsepower motor, it's a lot of power. So you don't want it struggling. It'll overheat if it's struggling, and it'll trip the capacitor. So the best thing is just keep the power input just a bit above the voltage of the tractor. And as I say, a voltmeter is a good thing, a great thing to have. A lot of these multimeters have a voltmeter capacitor, but they're expensive. So you better get a proper voltmeter with the little hand on it. They're not hard to get. They're on most generators as well. Now, so that's the story. You can bypass the whole regulatory system. Now, if you're charging a 12 volt battery, of course, you don't have to touch anything. All's there. You just connect it up, give it a wee excitement with a wee bit of current, and away she'll go. So you don't need any change for a 12 volt battery. But if you're doing an 18 volt battery, you're caught, because this is only 12 volt. What this here does is it allows you to bring the voltage output of your alternator up. And if you put the full 12 volt from the battery into the rotor, you'll get 120 volts out. That's the maximum they can do. And some people have put 3 of these together with an engine and actually welded with them. But you can't weld with a single, there's not enough power. The other thing, the little diodes in it have a limit. They're rated. They have a limit. So if you overdo it, if you horse it going with a strong engine and put it driving something real quick charge, it could burn the diodes. And if you burn them, it's kind of good night, Irene. They can be replaced, but it's a lot of bother. But if you keep the whole thing down, the diodes have about 4 times the power that they actually use in the car. They're built with extra reserve capacity, and so you shouldn't have a problem. Anyone ever do it? Comment underneath. Let me hear it. I've done it. It does work. It's a bit of rooting. It's a bit of work. If you have nothing else to do, just cut out get a good bit of a solid board. A bit of hardwood would be good. The bottom of an old bed or something, and bolt on. Make 2 brackets that you can bolt this, and bolt on your motor, and have it too that you could have it that you could adjust it, that you can pull the motor out to tighten the belt. And have it a certain tightness, but not too much tightness, because that'll absorb too much of the power of the motor. A half horsepower motor is pretty weak. You'd really stop it with a stick rubbing against it, but it's adequate. And then, of course, you can leave it running for quite a long time. Motors do heat up, but I'd say if you give it 20 minutes, you'd be up and running. You'd have all done, and at least you have retrieved your equipment. If you can buy them, charge at that rate, off you go. But this way, you just bring it up enough that you just have it charging and no more. And it'd be an interesting experiment to have, and a useful thing. So comment underneath. I will post a link to one of the videos I made back in 2011 or thereabouts, which explains and shows this in operation. All right. We'll see you back soon, folks. There's just an interest in vintage, and no harm to know. We'll see you back soon. Bye-bye.